Our next file introduces us to arguably the world's most mysterious book, a tome that's been identified as everything from a spy's secret code to an occultist spell book, even a message left behind for us by extraterrestrials. It's 1912, and I'm in Italy on the outskirts of Rome, where a Jesuit college is selling off old manuscripts to the highest bidder. A Polish rare book stealer named Wilfred Voynich is hoping to score some ancient texts that he can sell for a profit in London. And today is his lucky day. While rummaging, Voynich finds a strange book. When he opens it, it's like traveling into another universe. It contains cryptic diagrams and strange illustrations. The book is written in an unknown language that is so mysterious that for over a century it has defied all attempts to translate it, and its author remains unknown. Now, researchers have uncovered new clues that will help reveal whose hands wrote the world's most enigmatic book and what secrets it contains. Voynich is no amateur when it comes to books. He's dedicated his life to buying and selling rare and unusual texts. But even with all this expertise, he still can't make sense of this mysterious tome. Inside the book, he finds a letter dated August 19, 1666, from Bohemian physician Johannes Marcus Marzi, seeking help from a friend in deciphering the baffling text. It's a mystery, the letter says, on par with the Great Sphinx. This letter is the first clue in an international detective story that will occupy Voynich for the rest of his life, and the rest of us for over 100 years. What does this strange text say, and who wrote it? The Voynich manuscript is relatively small, measuring 9 by 6 inches and 2 inches thick, with exactly 240 pages. Each page is made of calfskin parchment and is densely covered in cryptic looping script alongside bizarre illustrations. Depictions of strange plants that don't match any known species, peculiar scenes of nude women bathing in pools, even a 6-panel fold-out that looks like the coolest board game you've ever seen. Though the artwork is vivid and strange, it's the cryptic, indecipherable script that captures the most attention, eventually becoming known as Voynichese. I would love to have a secret language named after me, but Gatesese doesn't really roll off the tongue. As for Voynichese, I will say that I have spent a fair amount of time with this, and well, I'm stumped. It really is as puzzling a text as anything I've come across. Luckily, Voynich finds a clue. Within the pages of the book, he finds a letter, written in Latin, that mentions the author was possibly the 13th century philosopher and alchemist Roger Bacon. Bacon is an interesting guy, to put it lightly. He's a Franciscan friar by day and dabbler in forbidden knowledge by night. Oh, and he's really into magic and using ciphers to encode texts. Voynich decides that if Bacon is the author, then he has his hands on a secret manual of alchemy and magic, filled with powerful and perhaps forbidden formulas. Voynich is also excited because that's something he should be able to sell for a significant sum. With Europe being consumed by World War I, Voynich realizes that if he wants to make a sale, he needs to travel somewhere safer. With book in hand, he heads to the land of opportunity, the United States. Once in America, he opens a bookstore in New York City and tries to attract wealthy collectors. But he gets little interest in this rare book because, of course, the text is unreadable. So in 1915, Voynich departs on a tour across America, trying to woo top libraries and museums, offering them the book for a special but still expensive price. While this non-stop promotion makes the manuscript one of the most famous books in the world, Voynich realizes that without cracking the code, he will be unable to sell the book. He knows whatever this book is, he's got something special on his hands. But all of his efforts to publicize the book unintentionally attract a different audience. After all, World War I is still raging, and the authorities are alerted to this suspicious foreigner. In 1917, Voynich gets a knock on the door. In walk the feds. The Bureau of Investigation, which would eventually become the FBI, interrogate him, concerned about why he has an unreadable text and whether he could have stolen American codes or be distributing German ones.
Hand over the manuscript.
But surely the agents have it all wrong, right? There's no way this mild-mannered bookseller has anything to do with espionage, is there? You wouldn't think so, but the thing is, Wilfred's got a lot in common with his manuscript. There's much more to Voynich than meets the eye. Early in his life, Voynich studies chemistry at Moscow University, but is sent to a Siberian prison in 1887 due to his involvement in revolutionary activities. During this time, he becomes familiar with 18 languages, mastering several. 3 years later, he escapes, making his way across Europe to London using a forged passport, and lives under an assumed name. While there, he helps form a Russian revolutionary group and marries author Ethel Boole. Through her, he connects with notable figures, including Russian-born spy Sidney Riley, a key inspiration for James Bond. With these kinds of connections, you could easily imagine Voynich's unassuming bookstore on 42nd Street being a front for something far more secretive. After turning his bookstore inside out and going over Voynich's story with a fine-tooth comb, the US government concludes Voynich isn't a current threat and doesn't possess any enemy intelligence. Although cleared by the government, Voynich unfortunately dies in 1930, having failed to unravel the text of the manuscript or sell it. But his constant promotion has given the Voynich manuscript fame and allure. The greatest code breakers in the world, many of them heroes from World War II, take a crack at the manuscript. British genius Alan Turing, who would go on to break the Nazis' Enigma code, finds the book impenetrable. U.S. national security cryptographer William F. Friedman tries transcribing the words into Latin characters, but he too is ultimately stumped. Over the next several decades, the greatest code breakers in the world use increasingly cutting-edge technology to decipher the manuscript. But it remains a mystery. Many believe the Voynich manuscript can't be cracked. That is, until now. The mystery of the Voynich manuscript has stumped scholars for over a century. Then, in 2009, a new revelation. Researchers at the University of Arizona carbon-tested the calfskin pages, dating them to 1404 to 1438 AD. This means Voynich's theory of Roger Bacon and a manual of magic is off the table. Unless Bacon invented time travel too, there is no way a 13th century philosopher could write on something from the 15th century. With Roger Bacon out, researchers propose other potential authors, like John Dee, the occult advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, who had a reputation for magic and secret texts. Or Leonardo da Vinci, whose cryptic mirror writing and illustrations resemble the Voynich style. And some think the manuscript is an elaborate hoax, perpetrated by none other than Wilfred Voynich himself. If anyone could forge this manuscript, Voynich is one of the few people in the world that could pull it off. His knowledge of language, chemistry, ancient texts, and ink, and a knack for subterfuge point to his skilled hands. Yet modern analysis does show the inks and paints date back to medieval times, so that rules him out also. Now, a recent book published by scholar Stephen Skinner could reshape our understanding of this enigmatic text. For a long time, people believed that whoever wrote the book must have been somebody of note. But historian Sami Jarouche has done an in-depth study of this new theory.
Stephen Skinner, in his book, posits a theory that the author of this book is a Jewish physician, a Jewish herbalist living in northern Italy in the 1400s. Here's why. Skinner starts to take a closer look at the visual aspects of the book. All these drawings of these bizarre plants, and what might these drawings have to do with the authorship of this book?
When considering the images in the book, some of the most perplexing are the pictures of the nude female bathers.
Skinner starts to put pieces together, and he comes to the conclusion that, wait, these aren't just random nude bathers that exist. These baths are what's called a mikveh. A mikveh is this ritualistic bathing that is done by Orthodox Jewish women.
Skinner goes on to posit that the only person who would really know about this would be somebody from a Jewish background. But there's more.
One of the other clues that he sees is that in the book you have these sort of ramparts that were very specific to these castles. These were only found in parts of Italy around the 15th century. Now, in that region of Italy, you have these towns and these cities like Pisa, for example, which had a very large Jewish population. On top of that, he's also recognizing that the indecipherable language in the book, what's been labeled as voynechese. He's thinking to himself, it could be a book that is filled with a lot of medicinal and medical knowledge. This is a physician that understands medicine, that understands herbs, plants, so on and so forth.
This is fascinating. We have a Jewish doctor from the 1400s living in Italy, writing a book about medicine. But the last question is, why the indecipherable code?
So perhaps because the types of plants that they're talking about, or the types of herbs or medicines that they're talking about, might be something that this particular physician didn't want other people to know or be familiar with, perhaps this type of writing is a sort of shorthand. So in a sense, it's a way to try to keep his secrets for himself, so that potentially this physician could stay ahead of his competitors because they have this potentially secret knowledge that they've written down in this book.
Interestingly enough, soon after his new theory is published, a pair of Canadian computer scientists at the Artificial Intelligence Lab at the University of Alberta claimed to have solved the language part of the Voynich code. They fed the text into an AI trained to recognize 380 languages. The AI's analysis of letter frequencies suggested the text was coded in alphagrams, where letters are shuffled and vowels are omitted. Based on this, they concluded that the text was most likely written in Hebrew, further supporting this new theory. When Wilfred Voynich picked up a dusty manuscript over 100 years ago, he couldn't have predicted just how much this one book would captivate the world. The newest evidence suggests the author of this incomprehensible text was not a magician, not a spy, not an extraterrestrial, or even Voynich himself, but rather a doctor. This may simply be a medical text, albeit a very exotic one. But what does it actually say? Well, today, the Voynich manuscript rests safely in a library at Yale. The entire volume is also digitized and available to the public online, just waiting for the next curious mind to try and decipher the most mysterious book in the world. Good luck. I'm Džoš Gejts. Until next time, travel adventurously.